The story of Susan's murder was reported in newspapers throughout the country. As Jeremiah Craine faced the gallows, he remained committed to his belief that he and Susan Newnham would be reunited in marriage for all eternity. News reports stated that Jeremiah Craine's confession was, in part, as follows. Susan first formed an attachment for him 15 or 18 months ago, and then it became reciprocal. About a year ago, they had been married. They had signed a marriage contract, and God Almighty had married them. Another person was a suitor for her hand, and her parents favored him. Meanwhile, Craine had a wife and 4 children in the Atlantic states, and this was the reason he could not marry Susan according to law. He had told Susan that he would kill her and himself, and that they would live together in the next world. Quote, "But she did not think I would kill her then. I had a pistol to commit the deed with. We will be happy in the next world."
I was executed on October 26, 1855. A lot of people came to see me get hanged that day over in the Pioneer Cemetery. Well, from up on those gallows, I could see parasols and picnic baskets, families laughing and playing together. I got in trouble because of a woman, and a young one at that. To this day, I don't know how it came to be that I killed her, but I did. I did. Came out to California from Kentucky back in '49 to look for gold. Things weren't going so well for me back there, and like everybody else, I had gold fever. But when I got out to California, like most everybody else, I didn't have much luck of looking for gold. And then in 1853, I met the Newnham family, and when I first met Miss Susan, she was 16 years old, and I could tell right then that she was someone special. And I could tell that she took an interest in me as well. But I took no action on those feelings. Then the Newnhams bought a nearby boarding house in Ringgold. That's about 20 miles up from Weber Creek, you know. And Mr. Newnham asked if I could take a room there. Well, I couldn't afford that, but knowing I was well read, he asked if I would teach his children in the evenings after my days of mining, so I agreed. And that's when I began to teach Miss Susan penmanship. And when I taught her penmanship, I had to get real close to her, you know, and I had to guide her hand so she could properly form her letters. And then before long, I was holding her hand more than guiding it, and well, one day I just couldn't let go. I felt as though I had known her before as someone very beloved to me. Well, before long, one thing led to another, and before you knew it, we was a romancing. And we soon made written commitments of our spiritual marriage, and we professed our love. Now, don't you look at me like that. Well, I know what you're thinking, but by then she was of a marriageable age. Problem was, I was already married. You see, when I left Kentucky, I left a wife and 4 children back there, and well, with Miss Susan being so young and all, that only made matters worse. I told her my wife had divorced me and remarried, and maybe that wasn't the full truth of it, and I had no written proof to show her. Well, one day she said it weren't right for us to be carrying on like that. And I told her I knew it weren't right, but I couldn't help myself. I knew that our souls had been brought together for eternal marriage, and nothing could part us. And if we could not be married in this life, then we could make sure that we would be together in the next. Well, she said we had to end it right there, slammed the door in my face and said, "Don't you come round no more." I also knew that her pa had a more suitable young man in mind to be courting Miss Susan. And that angered me to no end. But I tried to stay away from her. I did, but I just couldn't stop thinking about her. I was in love with her, and I know she was in love with me. And I knew in my heart, if I could see her one more time and hold her and truly explain my love to her, well, everything would be all right. And she would see that ours would be a marriage for all eternity. So, August 10th, 1855, I went back out to her house. Her pa was out in the front yard, and I asked if I could see her, but he refused. I told him I just wanted to talk to her, so he agreed. She finally came out into the front yard, and I tried to talk to her. I did, but she started yelling at me. She started saying the most terrible things. So I grabbed her and I held her, and I told her I loved her. And then she hit me. She pushed me away. And then she laughed at me. She sneered at me. And then, well, I had my gun. I knew I shouldn't have brought it, but there it was in my hand. And I grabbed her to me, and I shot her. Bam! The shot was not fatal, and I started bringing that gun up again. And she saw my hand and pushed it away, and the gun fired off away from us. And then she started stumbling back towards that house. And I followed her as she ran, and I called to her to come back to me, but she just kept it going. And that gun comes up again. And I says to myself, Jeremiah, you will have this woman for all eternity. And I shot her in the back of the head. They say all told, I shot her twice, but all I remember is seeing her lying on the floor of that house bleeding. I know I promised her I would join her in the hereafter, but I lost my nerve and I ran off. But it weren't no use running, because I done what I done. So the next day, I went back out to that house in Ringgold, and they found me hiding in the bushes, and they arrested me on the spot. It was going to lynch me, but Sheriff David Buell, he intervened and he took me into the jail over in Coloma. They told me it took her 5 days to die. Well, I confessed. I was tried and found guilty. During that time, I wrote my life story, and I also composed letters to those whom I had wronged, including my wife back in Kentucky. Then, later in October, I found myself standing on that new scaffolding they built for me and Mickey Free over in the Pioneer Cemetery in Coloma. They say 8,000 to 10,000 people came to see us get hanged that day. Old Mickey, he was a stagecoach robber and an evil, remorseless murderer. His time come first, and he asked if he could tie the knot for his own noose. And then he danced a little jig right on that trap door before they dropped him down. Weren't much of a jig, though. I think old Mickey's nerve gave out on him. Me, when my time came, I read a poem that I wrote while sitting there in that jail. And if you good folk would allow, I'd like to read it to you. Come, friends and all others, I bid you adieu. The grave is now open to welcome me through. No valley of shadows I see on the road, but angels are waiting to take me to God. The body no longer my spirit can claim. This day I'm going from sorrow and pain. The necklace and gallows will soon set me free. Then joyous and happy my spirit shall be. Then millions and millions of ages may roll, progression be ever the theme of my soul. To beauty and grandeur I'll ever be wed, and worlds without number my spirit will tread. Ye worldlings and Christians may sneer and may frown, but your unfounded systems are fast tumbling down, and sadness and sorrow will give way to mirth, and peace and goodwill shall extend over the earth. Come, brothers and sisters, a long, long farewell. The way it is clear, I can see it quite well. No valley of shadows I see on the road, but angels are waiting to take me to God. I'm going to the land of the free, where all love each other and ever agree. I'm going, I'm gone. Oh, friends and relations, 'tis done. It is done. Before they hanged me, I told Miss Susan for all the world to hear that I would soon be joining her. Her out on that property in Ringgold, but I guess they thought it wasn't fitting. So they buried me in an unmarked grave next to Mickey Free, right outside of that Pioneer Cemetery, just a few yards from where I was hung. Jeremiah V. Craine.